This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to
Welcome to the Junkyard Pod. I'm Tony Pesta, and well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are roughly 24 hours away from the return of Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. And that means if you want to stay on top of everything going on with the Cavs, then go ahead and do us a favor by following the Junkyard Pod on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I'll have links in the description so you can find us wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. We know most of you come from YouTube, and so we're trying to promote those other platforms. So basically, if you like this show and you want to help us out, go ahead and follow over there as well. Now let's get into today's episode because I am joined by my co-host Jackson Flickinger, who just came back from a week in Florida. And Jackson, why don't you tell the people what you were doing down there?
So I was there covering Cavs training camp. So I got to, talk to people after training camp, got to see one practice, just going to be up front. I'm really liking what I'm seeing and hearing. So I am Kenny pilled, as the kids say.
I think we all are at this point.
I hate talking bad about JB because I genuinely like JB, but all the issues that we had with JB, it seems like Kenny is just the complete opposite in so many different areas, where just looking at a simple thing as looking at lineup data and being lineups with Evan Mobley as the only center kind of don't get any rebounds. We need to focus on that. And it's yeah, dude. It's been going on for 3 years.
JB paid attention how good those Lamar Stevens lineups were. That's what he locked in on. And I'm sure we'll see more of that in Detroit. But yeah, Jackson, we had the budget to send Jackson down to Orlando and cover the Sam Merrill beat in person. So we're really glad to get you down there. And no, I think everyone is Kenny pilled. Kenny Atkinson, I was kind of maybe lukewarm on the hiring at first. I was yeah, it seems like a good move. But now I'm fully bought in. We'll see how much it actually translates. But before we get into some training camp takeaways, there's a quick developing story. Two-way wing Emoni Bates announced on social media that he underwent surgery for a torn meniscus. Now, there's not much information on this, but I figured we should start with this real quick. And basically, any instant reaction to this news, Jackson?
I am a little surprised. He was, with the one practice that I was able to completely watch, he was not actively participating in it, but that's not, that doesn't mean that somebody needs meniscus surgery just because they weren't.
Reasons.
Right. So, and he was still there shooting around and was moving like every other basketball player does when they were shooting around. So there was no reason to believe that this was an issue. So this did catch me off guard. As of now, the team hasn't said anything about it, which is a little odd, but so we'll see. It's tough to speculate. As our good friend Brian Windhorst says, there's no such thing as minor knee surgery. So I would just say that, and let's just hope that we get to see Emoni on the court at some point in time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Obviously, you never want to see a player go through knee surgery. I will say I'm hoping this will just be kind of a small obstacle for him because meniscus injuries aren't what they used to be. And then on his Instagram story, when he announced it, he did say that he had this for a minute. So it sounds like it's not necessarily a new injury, but clearly it must have been bothering him enough to the point where he decided to undergo surgery. And I guess, again, I don't want to speculate, but it is a little unfortunate timing because if it was bothering him, he would have wanted to get this done way earlier in the offseason than training camp week. So it's a little bit of a weird situation. Hopefully he'll be back and better than ever, as he said. And, I was really looking forward to seeing him play with that added strength. There was that report that he gained 35 pounds, which, to be clear, because I feel like people misinterpreted whatever was going on there. It's 35 pounds, not 35 pounds of straight muscle, just 35 pounds from last year, not over the summer. He didn't bulk up 35 pounds of straight muscle. That would be unbelievable to do in a couple months. So not that it matters, but I was looking forward to seeing him play with that added strength. And now it seems like it's going to be, there's no timeline, but obviously it's going to be a little while before he's back on the court. And so hopefully he'll be back as soon as possible, ready to go. Because I am looking forward to seeing what improvements he makes, what he made over the summer.
Yeah, and it's a really tough blow for you as the main charge beat reporter. And, right
Yeah,
now it's, there's
this
just a
game just
lot
got
less stuff to write about.
a lot more
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, you still have, well, now you just have to start crunching some NBL film, get
Get
all
ready
over
to
that
learn
Luke
Luke
Travers.
Travers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it is tough just because I think it's really interesting to see guys once they take that step into their second year where it's like, okay, like this is what I learned my rookie year. And the things that, I talked to some people at the charge and the things that I was hearing, it made it seem like he was taking steps in the right direction, or at least was willing to correct some of the defensive issues. Because I know some people talked about like, oh, adding muscle will certainly help on defense, and it will, but a lot of his defensive issues just came from lapsing, just not really paying attention or like losing his guy off
Being
ball,
19
things
years
like
old,
that.
a little
Yeah,
out of that
so
position, learning.
so so you really would like to see those reps of him like being in those situations. So that's disappointing, and it seems like he's really coachable and that he understands these shortcomings and is working on them. But you'd like to see him be able to work on them, in game.
Yeah, that basically summarizes how I feel. Again, hopefully he gets a speedy recovery and he's back out there soon. Let's go ahead and transition now to training camp. And Jackson, I just want to keep it simple and start off. What was your biggest takeaway from training camp?
My biggest takeaway from training camp is the Cavs are going to be an NBA team in 2024, 2025, and not an NBA team in 2004, which it seemed like at times they were an NBA team in 2004 with how they really operated. And even when the Cavs had an emphasis on shooting more threes and things like that, it felt like that emphasis was because they kind of knew they were supposed to do it, but they didn't really like know why. And I think one of the things that was really interesting is that Isaac Okoro was asked, like, what is the biggest difference between training camp this year and last year? And he's just like, the attention to detail with Kenny is just so much different. He's really analytics based. And that was like, well, was there a lack of attention to detail before? And he was like, no, but it's just a lot different now. And I think that's kind of what if I was just to sum up how I feel about this whole Kenny Atkinson experience, that's it, where it's like we saw so much low hanging fruit when we would just talk about the Cavs, where it's like, why doesn't Darius or Donovan move off ball? Why don't they try to get offensive rebounds? Like these things that it felt like we just kept talking about are like, why is there four guys standing in the paint and just letting 3-pointers go to the Kings? Like, why are they doing that? And it seems like you have somebody in there who's also asking these questions and is making sure that the Cavs don't do that. Because it feels like even if you were just to clean up this low hanging fruit, and I think that they can get more out of it than just cleaning up this low hanging fruit, you can just become a 4-5 like win better team than you were previously. Because the biggest thing with the Cavs is that the talent has been there, and I think that people, when they talk about the Cavs, especially nationally, they really underrate how talented this group is. There aren't many teams that have four like top 50 level players, and you think that at least two of those top 50 level players can get exponentially better if they're put in the right position. I'm talking about Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. So that's where it's like, I'm really encouraged and I'm really bullish on this team right now. And I know we didn't like it, the fact that there was no offseason additions to this group, but I think we also undersell how well the bench hybrid lineups really worked, how groups with Donovan and Jarrett really worked well together, and the same with groups with Darius and Evan. It's just that when you put them all together, they didn't really work well. And it seems like Kenny's whole emphasis is like, hey, we got to get these four guys, we got to get them all on the same page. And that's where it's like, yes, if you can get them even a little bit more on the same page, so you get them a little bit more on the same page, and you have health in that Boston Celtics series. Do they steal one more game? Do they steal two more games? Do they steal the series? That's where it's like, I think the Cavs are a lot closer than people think. And
I agree.
I'm very encouraged by what I saw. I do want to real quick before I let you talk
Yeah,
again.
go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I
You're good.
I do want to throw out this caveat that I don't think it's going to be like you turn on the Cavs and Bulls game on Tuesday and it's like, oh, Darius is just moving off ball like Steph Curry. Oh, Evan Mobley took 6 threes in the first quarter. Like, that's not going to happen. It's going to be I think it's going to be a lot slower process than people think. I think the goal is to really like optimize the quick things really simply. Like, okay, what if we use Isaac Okoro more as a screener? What if we used Evan more in inverted pick and rolls? What if we did these little things that we can implement on day one and then try to keep implementing these bigger changes that will lead to, better basketball? Because I think that this team's probably not going to feel really comfortable together until probably like January, February, as opposed to like, oh, they're coming out of the gates and they're like, playing a completely different brand of basketball.
Yeah, I do think so. Two things on that. I do agree there's most likely going to be an adjustment period. There's going to be some growing pains, and that's what we have talked a lot about. Is just under JB in the previous couple of seasons that you just wanted to see Mobley try some things. You wanted to see Garland try to increase his 3-point volume, Okoro as a screener, like get more creative and push these guys out of their comfort zone. And so this is the first year where you really do that. Naturally, there's going to be some moments where they stumble. I do think, though, there's a good chance they come out the gates just on fire because of the fact that they have the stability. They've been together for a while. I guess we'll have to see how much of an adjustment period there is for them. I don't think they'll necessarily look like a brand new team right away, but I do think they could get off to a really hot start just in terms of winning a lot of games.
I do. I do want to say I definitely agree with that. Like, they could win a bunch of games. I just don't think it's going to be like, oh, they don't run any more high pick and rolls. Like, they're not going to. Yeah. So like, that's more of what I mean, because they're very talented. I think they're going to be a really good defensive team, and when you have a top 5 defense, you're just in every game, and that's where it's like the Cavs really in like 2 seasons ago, where it's like they should have won more games than that because they just kept blowing leads really late in games. It was really bad execution on offense.
And that's where, the excitement comes from with Kenny Atkinson, is that it does seem like he's breathing new air into this team. He's really going to try and revamp the offense. It's not just going to be running those high pick and rolls over and over again. I know you had a story written about that where it's not going to, obviously when you have 2 great guards the way we do, you're going to run a lot of pick and roll, but it can't be, you can't rely on it as much as the Cavs did last year. The core 4 can't feel like they're just trying to exist together. It has to be more cohesive. And so another story that you wrote for Fear the Sword, Kenny looks like he's looking into the analytics a lot more than the previous staff did.
Which isn't saying much, but...
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. By all accounts, it seems like JB and his staff they had a more traditional approach to this stuff. They didn't really embrace the analytics or really a modern play style. And I think that's true even when you look at the way JB talks about the Pistons. He's like, yeah, we don't really need to shoot that many 3-pointers. Spacing is just kind of what you make it, is what he's saying, which... I mean, listen, he's found success in the NBA, so that's not a knock on him. It just doesn't seem like his style maybe didn't match what the Cavs needed or what you'd expect from a modern team. And that's where I think Kenny, who is a very forward-thinking, modern NBA coach, could get the most out of them, because obviously there's areas the Cavs have needed to improve on for quite a while, whether that's the pace, maximizing certain lineups, the rebounding, Mobley out there, 3-point shooting. And so all of that is something I'd expect to see the Cavs make a conscious effort to change this season.
And I think one of the things that's going to allow them to do that is Kenny has talked like 500 times about how he wants to have a deep rotation where he doesn't want to just play, Donovan like 38 minutes. I'm not sure what he played last year, but like last year, the 4 best players all played like 32-ish and up minutes. And I think Kenny wants to, obviously you're still going to play Donovan a bunch, but you're going to get a lot more rest, I think, and that's going to allow you to play a different way, because you would see, especially late in games, JB would be on the sideline, like waving up Garland or Mitchell, like, let's get into the offense. But it's like, yeah, well, they're playing like 36, 37 minutes and they just played yesterday too. So
yeah, and they're running every single play is running directly through them. They're initiating, they're finishing. Like, hopefully Kenny, it seems like he just wants a more involved approach where, like, hey, you have Max Strus, he can do some things. Let him initiate some of the plays. Even Evan Mobley, who I think this is a good way to kind of transition a little bit, because I want to know, what did you think of how the Cavs were using Evan Mobley in training camp and some of the comments that we heard? Do you think he's going to get more touches? And is the 3-point shooting, is that legit? Has it improved? I'm not asking if he's going to come out being a sniper, but what did you see in training camp?
I think that Evan Mobley looks a lot better. I also think that we need to cool it with the 3-point talk, because I don't think he's going to come out and be Brook Lopez. I don't think that's really how it's going to be. And if you listen to, so I wrote about this today for Fear the Sword on my Evan Mobley preview. If you listen to Karras or Craig Porter Jr., no disrespect, talking about Evan Mobley, they're like, oh yeah, he's just shooting so many threes. And if you listen to Kenny talk about it, he's like, yeah, we want him to shoot more threes, but we need to get the ball in his hands more. And Sam had this quote that I really liked about how yeah, you want him to shoot threes, but that's not the only way that he can improve, and you just want to keep seeing him improve in all areas of his game, because that's really what's going to allow him to take that next step forward. So I think that what is important, and this is and Donovan talked about this, is that he's talked about how Evan needs to be really aggressive and assertive, and I think that's what is most important, because what he did in that Boston series isn't really, you weren't able to replicate it over 82 games. I think it's important to highlight that Boston was kind of just leaving Horford on an island and saying, Evan, if Evan wants to score 32 points a game just by going at Al Horford, that's fine. We're just not going to let the 3-point shot get going. We're not going to let anything else happen. And most teams have a better center, to handle Evan Mobley than Al Horford, and he's not going to have that same level of spacing. So you're not going to be able to replicate that 1-for-1, but if you can replicate that aggression and that attack-minded style, I think that's what's really important. And I think that's more of what we're going to see, as opposed to just Evan Mobley's keeping it on dribble handoffs and now he's shooting over the defense for 3. That's he's not Kevin Love. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I've been a long-time advocate for just getting Mobley to face the basket rather than posting him up. He's not a post-up player. There's really very few situations where you want to post up Evan Mobley. And it felt like that was where a lot of his touches came from, was back to the basket. Kind of, again, that traditional thinking of he's a 7-footer, so let's get him in the paint. No, I kind of want him. And now, listen, I'm not taking this all the way to point Mobley, but I want him above the break a little bit. I want him to bring the ball up after getting a rebound. I want him going towards the rim, going downhill, which is what Kenny has mentioned a lot. I just want him trying things. I want him to try things. I want him to have enough touches and possessions where he can do something a little different, whether that's shooting some 3-pointers, taking someone off the dribble, creating for someone else. We've seen, I put a little montage together. I'll try to throw it in here for the YouTube audience, of Mobley running inverted pick and rolls last season. Now, notably, he's running them with Jarrett, which is still kind of the spacing conundrum, but have Donovan Mitchell set a screen for him, have Max Strus set a screen for him and pop out. Get creative with this. I just want to see Mobley attempt to put some pieces of the puzzle together. And I do think Kenny is going to put him in a position where it's kind of sink or swim, right? Hey, what can you do? Let's find out. And that's where, to tie this back to what we were saying, that's where you might see some of those growing pains. I don't think Mobley's going to come out and he's taking people off the dribble, hitting threes, creating plays at a super high level. There's going to be some games where he shows that, and there's going to be some games where he struggles. And I think, I forget where this quote came from, if it was Donovan or Strus, someone from training camp said, we've seen Mobley show flashes of all this stuff before, but recently over the summer, it's being more consistent now, which is what we have been saying this whole time. Is we see the flashes, now we need it to be one consistent thing. So hopefully, that's the direction they're going.
Yeah, and I really like what you're saying about the facing up, because I think I keep going back to maybe his rookie year when he was playing Denver, he just kind of for whatever reason, he just caught fire and was just I'm going to just keep, attacking the paint off the dribble, do this spin move and just finish through people. And it was oh, Evan Mobley's arrived. The Cavs are going to take the next step. And it's well, that didn't really happen. So,
yeah,
but
just put him back into a box after that.
Right. But so it's if you can get like that aggressive version of Mobley, like if you look at, I don't have his numbers up in front of me, but his like rim finishing numbers have always been pretty good. And like I know people are like Evan Mobley soft, and where I think the soft label comes from is like when he's on the block, he just consistently gets moved off of his spots. Like I
Yeah,
remember there
he's
was
not a
one time he
post
tried.
player.
Yeah, he tried to like. I remember one time he tried to post up Bam, and like by the time he went to like the turnaround, he like started on the block, and like by the time he like started his like turnaround hook, he was like at the free throw line, and it's like yeah,
Yeah,
because like he's not getting through people like that. But if you get him going to the basket, he's able to do things, and the problem is, well, how do you get him going to the basket if Jarrett Allen's out there too? And that's where they're talking about like getting him in space, getting him handling the ball more. I think watch Isaac Okoro as a screener in an inverted pick and roll. Now I do have questions on how that works if Jarrett Allen's on the floor, but I think it's better than having like I remember they tried again in the like 2 years ago. They kept trying to do like Isaac Okoro as the screener for like Garland or like Mitchell, but they would have like Mobley and Allen just standing in the dunker spot, and it's like, all right, well that's a double, and what are we doing here? Like you can't
yeah.
really do that the same way if Mobley is ball handling. So I think it's just like a creative way to get both of them involved, but I think we're just going to see Mobley do different things. Kenny also talked about trying to implement some of those like the split action cuts from that like Golden State used.
Yeah.
I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to do that, but it's like Evan Mobley, is he a good enough passer to do that? I kind of have a little more faith in Jarrett Allen as a passer in those situations.
That's I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually we everyone focuses on Mobley increasing his touches in these types of plays. And I kind of think they have two bigs who could do some of this stuff. You know, I'm not saying either one of them is going to be Jokic, but I kind of think that he's like, even in the inverted pick and rolls that I'll show, like a couple of them, it's Allen handling the ball. And like, I kind of think they both have a little bit more to offer the offense than what they've been allowed to do so far. Now, maybe it'll look horrible if they actually get more touches, but again, I just want to see them try things.
We've got to try it. Yeah, if you're going to make the two-man lineup work, you can't leave a stone unturned because
Right.
we focus on all the bad things about the two-man big lineup. But you know why the two-man big, like, you know why we're still trying this out is because the defense is really freaking good when they're both on the court. And like, if you have a good offense, like if you can get this to like a top 10 level offense when both of these guys are on the court together and you combine that with a really good defense, you're looking at a team that can go to the finals. And like I think that that's like a very real thing that could happen if you got the offense on the same page. Getting it on the same page is easier said than done. But we saw with Allen those dribble handoffs, especially when Mobley was out in the middle of the season last year. He was really effective in the dribble handoffs because he's a really good screener. His guy either has to come up to the level of the screen to kind of stop the three, and if he does, Allen can beat him backside. And if he doesn't, Allen's a good enough screener to create like an open three for somebody like Donovan. So that's where it's like, how do you get that into a situation with Evan Mobley because they were never able to replicate the things that they did well in the middle of the season when all four players were on the court.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that stretch from December to the All-Star break, because they didn't replicate it, but they still found a lot of success once Garland and Mobley came back. I think Kenny should be spending a lot of time looking at that stretch and thinking, how do we recreate that and how do we implement Mobley and Garland back into this? And one thing, I've been saying this a couple times, I think just in my regular videos, but if you're going to make the two big lineup work, you need at least one of them to stop playing like a traditional big. And honestly, you might even be able to get both of them to stop playing like a traditional, old school center, because it's not like the Cavs are running two Yusuf Nurkic's out there, right? Like Allen and Mobley are very versatile bigs, even offensively. Now they can't shoot 3-pointers, but they can do a little more than the way that JB was using them. Again, maybe this is a freezing cold take and we'll see they're more limited than we thought. But again, it all comes back to they got to get some reps and we got to see what they're capable of doing. Allen certainly showed that he's capable of doing more during that stretch when Mobley was out. And I think Mobley, that's the whole selling point for him offensively, is he's not just he's not a guy who just finishes around the rim. He can do a little bit more. So again, if you figure out how to make that work, the reason the Cavs feel, the reason why they've committed to this core four is because they have been really, really good together. They're just clearly, they need to take one more step forward. And I think Kenny is going to be the guy to find out whether or not that's possible or if we're just selling pipe dreams.
Yeah, and they've been really good together despite their fit with each other. Like they've been,
Yeah.
especially last year, more good because of their fit when not all four of them were on the court. And that's really like we joke like that's a bad thing, which one, it is a bad thing. But it also shows that like when you have four really good players, you're just constantly running out good lineups. Like, and that's
Yeah.
what like all the lineup data shows, especially when you have somebody like Dean Wade who can fit into a lot of different lineups. Somebody like who I think he's probably my training camp player to like the guy that I'm most excited to see play under Kenny because I think that Kenny really sees something in Dean Wade where like this is one of the best defenders in the entire league from the wing. Let's imagine if he actually did something on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that's where I think that if we were to say now, they didn't let media see all the practice. They let me to see a little bits and pieces of practice. The bits and pieces that I did see, Dean was letting it fly. So, that's going to make Kurt Fairchild very happy. If
No
Dean is
more
able to play
cardio,
like this,
Dean.
so that's where, and
Fixing
then
it.
Kenny also talked about like, well, Dean, you're really good at like you're really athletic and stuff like that. How do we apply that more? How do we get you more as like an offensive rebounder? How do we get you more cutting to the basket? Like you don't need to just stand there. So that's where I'm really excited about that because in a lot of ways the Isaac Okoro conversation is very similar to the Dean Wade conversation, and I think that they both have, especially they have more skill on the offense side of the ball than they've shown. And I think if you were to just like get 5% more offense out of both of them, it's like imagine how good those bench lineups are now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that's where I'm saying when there's like low hanging fruit, it's like what if we just utilize those two guys better and then the lineups that are already good become even better. And then what if we just get the bigs a little bit on the same page? What if and it's they talked about Garland and Mitchell moving off ball, and Garland and Mitchell both talked about it as well. Where it's like if they're moving off ball, the bigs what they need to do to survive is so much different than if you have like Darius standing up with his foot on the C of the center court logo and Donovan's dribbling the ball. It's like the
Mhm.
bigs have to be a lot better if that's what's happening every single possession as opposed to like, oh, Darius is actually coming around a screen that's not like a preset play. Like you kept every time they ran like that elevator screen
Yeah.
for like Darius, you
Once
would
every
post it
other
like
month.
10 times. But it's like they're not that's not a natural action. That's like let's call this play to get this shot, and it's like you need to have natural actions, and I think that's where when you're talking about and Kenny and Donovan both talked about this how when you have different like when you have a different philosophy and different things that you can like different reactions that you can make depending on like the sets and stuff like that, it just allows a freer flowing offense as opposed to like the Cavs, which I would describe as like a whatever
Very
the opposite
stagnant.
of free flowing is. Yeah.
Stagnant,
So
just kind of predictable. Like everyone knew it's a pick and roll. They're just going to try and space the floor, run that pick and roll over and over again. Every once in a while, JB would. It was almost like a gimmick. He'd be like, we're gonna run a different play this time every couple weeks, and it's like something like an elevator play, which isn't the
mhm.
most effective thing in 2024, but like that should just be like a part of your free flowing sets. Where like, all right, we ran it, didn't get a shot, now we move to the next set, and that's what it sounds like Kenny wants to do. If you look at his background with the Warriors, even when he was coaching the Nets, like they did a lot of that stuff. It's just a lot of movement. It's not necessarily going to lead directly to a shot, but you're trying to get the defense to move a little bit. I'm going to plug myself. I mentioned this on when I recorded with Ben as well, but I have a video coming out tomorrow where I looked at some of Kenny's sets from Brooklyn, and I kind of imagined how it would look with the Cavs personnel. So go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss out on that. And that was one of my biggest takeaways from training camp and media days. Kenny saying like, we don't want to be a stagnant offense. We don't want to run
Mhm.
pick and roll all the time. We don't want to have guys just standing there attempting to space the floor and get out of the way. Now I have two more things that I want to hit on before we wrap up here. One, I have to know, is it true that George Niang was only the second worst QB to play for Cleveland last week?
uh George Niang was better than I think like I went back and watched the
We
videos.
saw the clip where he threw an
Yeah,
interception. That's the only
the
thing I saw.
videos the videos were bad, and I feel like his form looked better in real life than it did on the videos.
So
So
they
I
smeared
was
him. It was a slander.
maybe. I mean, he wasn't like great, but he certainly wasn't bad. I mean, if you
Okay.
want to talk about a bad quarterback, Darius was
Yeah.
awful. Darius was
Really?
awful.
That doesn't
He was.
surprise me for some reason. Even though he's such a great
I mean,
playmaker,
the
I just
decision
feel it wouldn't
making.
be a good. Yeah.
The decision making was bad. He was like throwing the ball over like guys' heads, like if they were playing tackle football, like guys would have, like his receivers would have got killed. So he was like
Yeah.
very bad. Um,
That doesn't surprise me because again, Darius is obviously a great playmaker, one of the best passers in the NBA. But when you look at some of the passes he throws, like Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen make some incredible catches. Let me just say that because like it's not necessarily that the pass is off target or anything, but he throws them with so much heat. Throws them, these lobs in traffic where like you got to give his receiver some credit sometimes.
yeah.
So that was one thing
And
that I was wondering. And then
while we're throwing
anything
people
else?
under the bus, I want to
Yeah.
throw Tristan Thompson under the bus
Oh my
because
god.
I don't think he knows what football is. Like honestly, he was out there like this is an activity that I've kind of seen glimpses of, but I don't really know how it works.
He just wanted to get home and read more about Bitcoin. We would be doing a disservice if we talked about training camp without talking about the guy who kind of, listen, Cavs Nation has fully bought into this kid, Jaylon Tyson. There's been a full run of propaganda that has just stormed Twitter. I want to know from you, since you were there, you witnessed it, what did you see from Tyson, and have your expectations for him changed at all?
I didn't see much from Tyson. He wasn't in any of the open runs that I saw. So I don't have any firsthand accounts. I will say just the way that some of this works is like the first day we asked people like who impressed you, and it was like they said Jaylon Tyson, and then it was like the second day it was like, well, I'm working on Jaylon Tyson's story, so I'm going to ask about Jaylon Tyson. So then you're not going to ask Darius, and he's going to be like, oh, Jaylon Tyson sucks. So that's where it was impressive. Where like we asked Max Strus, like, hey Max, who impressed you? And Max is like Jaylon Tyson. Like that's where it's like that quote. That means something, whereas like some of the other quotes where it's like you're already asking about a player, it's like they're not going to be like, yeah, man, this guy sucks. So I do want to preface it with that, where it's like let's calm down a little bit, and I think
there's no
so I would say calm down. What one of the things I did bring up because I brought up the Max Strus quote. He said that what's impressed him is that his ability to play and move off ball, and that's something that's really rare for rookies, and that because he has that, you'll be able to make like an immediate impact. And I think that's interesting because that's the question that I have with him. Well, I also have a question about whether he can actually like get to the rim. I think that's kind of an area where I'm like, I don't know if he has like the juice on ball to do that. But if he's able to play well off ball, I think that just makes everything a whole lot easier. So if Max is correct in his assessment, then I think that Tyson will be able to make a more immediate impact. I don't know if I would be I'd be probably more surprised if he was in the opening, like the rotation in October, November, as opposed to if he wasn't. So, I mean, they just have a lot of guys in that position, and it's like I think guys have been more impressed with like Ty Jerome, your boy, the guy who's been balling.
Yeah, MVP.
So and I think it's like, well, I think Sam Merrill's going to play a pretty decent role just in how Kenny likes his teams. Isaac's gonna Isaac's not losing minutes. I think they really believe they have something with him. Dean's gonna play. I'm not 100% sure if Karras. I'm not sure if Niang's gonna play, but if Niang does or doesn't play, that's not a Jaylon Tyson minute situation. So it's like I don't 100% know how Jaylon Tyson's gonna go on the floor, and we haven't even talked about Craig Porter Jr. So
yeah, there's a lot of guys ahead of him. It's not like he's gonna just walk right in and get it. I will say, based on everything that we've heard and what we have seen from Summer League, I do expect Tyson to have a good rookie season. What I mean by that is I think he'll get opportunities and he'll probably look pretty decent. I think Craig Porter is like a good example of like probably have somewhat of a similar year to Craig Porter, where it's like he gets opportunities and he makes the most of them. I do think he has a good chance of, he has as good a chance as anyone of earning a spot in like the back end rotation for the regular season. Playoffs, I'm not even going to predict. I have no idea what that'll look like. It's impossible to know if a rookie can.
I would be shocked.
It's so rare for a rookie to come in and impact winning on a playoff team, especially like a contender. So I'm not going to focus on that. But as far as his rookie season, I do think he can help in the regular season. The things that I want to see from him are rebounding. I think he's a strong rebounder. He clearly has a nose for hunting the ball. I want to see if he can change the game at all with his defense, tenacity, just provide some energy, do the little things. And then getting to the rim will be interesting. I'm more wondering how good of a catch and shoot threat is he going to be? Is he going to be like an average 35, 37% three-point shooter, or is he going to be able to get into the 40s? Now, maybe that doesn't happen rookie year, but I think that will be huge for just determining his ceiling long-term. Is like, again, is he going to be just an okay off-ball shooting threat, or is he going to be like a Grayson Allen type where he's just lights out role player? I think that changes it. And then, of course, because he is going to get opportunities on ball. He's going to play primarily off ball, but he will get time with the ball in his hands. And so I want to see how can he create advantages like we saw in Summer League, or was that just Summer League? Like, is he going to be able to do that against NBA level talent? We'll need to see some flashes of that. I wouldn't expect him to put it all together first year, but I hope to see flashes.
Yeah. I said earlier I'm Kenny pilled. I'm not Jaylon Tyson pilled. I am.
That's fair.
I am a lot
counterbalance because I am.
I'm a lot lower, especially on an immediate impact, just because I don't really trust the shot. I don't know how he's going to play off ball. It is a lot harder to kind of speculate on things when you don't have a good grasp on how this team's going to look. Whereas if you throw him out in like a JB Bickerstaff team, it's like, can he run a pick and roll and maybe do something out of that, kind of like Craig Porter Jr.? I think he could for spurts. But then you throw him in a Kenny Atkinson team, what does that look like? Is that better? Is that worse? I don't know. So I'm just wait and see. I think if you were going to pitch something to watch for for preseason, it's like, hey, let's see how Jaylon Tyson fits in. Like, does he have the game? Can he fit into the offense? What does he look like off ball playing with NBA players? Because that Summer League team sucked that he was on, and Craig Porter Jr. was awful in Summer League. Oof. So yeah, that's but he was also bad. Like, Tyson was bad playing off of Craig Porter Jr., and it's like, how does that look when he's, I don't know, if like he's playing with Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro in preseason. Yeah. How does that look? And that's what I want to see. And also, like,
there's a difference between like being an off-ball player in the sense of like what he'll probably look like under Kenny Atkinson with like a whole season of them scheming and stuff. Summer League playing off-ball is just kind of like, hey, just, he's just kind of out there. They weren't really running stuff to get him involved. He didn't have, again, Craig Porter played horribly. They didn't have anyone else creating much for anyone. Like, that Summer League team just sucked. So I do think it's not going to be a one-to-one comparison. I think his role is going to look different. He's going to be used in different ways in the regular season. And again, just to transition here and sort of wrap up, preseason is here. And so I want to talk real quickly. What are we hoping to see translate from training camp to the court in preseason? And so, of course, I want to see Tyson. I want to see if he can play quality minutes off ball. I want to see Mobley face the basket, initiate some plays. I want to see some creativity from the offense. Now, you're not going to have a perfect, offensive plan in game one of preseason, and they're not going to show their whole cards in this game against Chicago. But I'd like to see some things. I'd like to see some movement. Yeah, go all out. Just blow them out. It's really set the tone. I want to see movement from everyone. And I know we had some tough news with Emoni, but I'm still interested in seeing the two-way guys potentially get out there. I want to see Luke Travers, JT Thor. I still think that'll be fun. Those are things I'm looking for. Jackson, what are you looking for?
I'm looking to see if what they've practiced carried over to the court. They didn't scrimmage in years past. It seemed like they just kind of like training camp was just like, hey, let's do 5-on-5 and let's just have some fun. This year was a lot of going through concepts and trying to figure out what they were exactly going to be doing. So I think, like, you never know how a team's going to manage preseason, and I don't want to speculate too much, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of played their starters more than normal, just because they haven't done a whole lot of scrimmaging and stuff. They've done a lot more film study and trying to like learn what Kenny Atkinson wants. So I want to see what that looks like in application, and I think it's going to be. I think there's going to be like a 1 or 2 minute stretch where you're like, whoa, like Cavs basketball is back, guys. And then like I think there's going to be a couple stretches where you're like, whoa, why is Isaac Okoro dribbling 500 times? Like what is he doing? So, I think there's just going to be some growing pains, but I want to see those growing pains. And I think it would be more concerning if we didn't see growing pains, if it was like, oh, let's just do some high pick and rolls. Hey, Isaac,
preseason's the time to get weird. Preseason's the time to run the Mobley Okoro pick and roll. Like go ahead and try some things like we've been saying. Yeah. That's the time to do it. I know preseason doesn't mean anything grand scheme of things, but new coach, new offense, new approach to everything. Like, go ahead, get some of those growing pains out of the way. It doesn't matter if you go winless in the preseason. You could learn some things.
But what I don't want to see is I don't want to see tweets from you about when Isaac Okoro like scores in transition and you're like, he's not in the corner anymore. Because you did, because like last year, I think they were playing that like Israeli team, and he scored like twice in transition and stood in the corner the rest of the game, and you were like, this is a new Isaac Okoro. They've changed the whole system. I was like, I don't know what you're watching, Tony.
I will not be held accountable for any preseason takes.
No, you will be.
I'm out there now.
I am holding you accountable for preseason takes from last year. So,
yeah, you kept that one stored.
Well, yeah, because I was just so mad because I was like
preseason.
I was at the game and I said, that's not what's happening. Is Tony what is Tony watching? So, anyways,
you know the drill by now. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of the Junkyard Pod. Like I said at the top, if you enjoyed this show and you want to support the channel, all you have to do is hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Drop a like and leave a comment with what you're hoping to see from the Cavs this season. We're going to have a whole lot more content coming out soon, so you don't want to miss it. But until then, go Cavs.
I agree, go Cavs. Brian, how did you like Florida?